So I had a new student start with me yesterday, middle-aged man, and he came in, said he was a 6 handicap and has played in some amateur events and actually won some events, and that he has a really bad hook. He also said he really notices a strong divot pattern. He just knows his golf swing is super steep, and he's been trying to fix that, and he just can't get rid of the hook. So I thought it was an interesting self-analysis. So we start looking at his swing, and I get him on TrackMan. I take some video, and the guy is 10 degrees, swinging to the right, face is pretty closed. He's complaining of shank misses as well sometimes. And he also has a video that's showing me the club traveling well from the inside, where the club head is way behind his hands and his body coming into impact. So I watch him hit and warm up, and then I show him this video of himself and explain to him all the numbers, his angle of attack being very shallow, all these things. And he's convinced he's swinging steep down on the ball, and that is his feel. That was his reel. But feel is not always real, because clearly he wasn't really doing that. So it was interesting, because it's almost like I had to spend a good part of the lesson convincing him of the reality to get him to really buy into the changes that we're going to make ultimately, which is going to help him get a little bit more on plane and certainly hit down on the ball better. But he was sort of in shock. It was kind of an interesting conversation experience. So just wanted to share that. I think that sometimes sharing these stories and getting other pros to understand how to communicate with their students effectively, get on the same page with your students, and not demean what they are thinking or feeling, but just clearly explain to them what's happening, the why. And it's okay sometimes to get into a little bit of detail with what's really going on in their swing. I'm a fan of keeping it simple, and ultimately the fixes that we worked on in the lesson for day one were really simple. We worked on his backswing ultimately, and he was very happy leaving. He saw a change right away in his club path. And so it doesn't have to be complicated, but I think you owe your students an explanation as to what's happening, and get them on the same page in terms of vernacular that you're going to be using, explaining some of these TrackMan numbers, what they mean, instead of just talking over their head. One other interesting part of the conversation with this student included him admitting that he had been trying to work on swinging more into out. And I think students, particularly diligent practicers, sometimes lower handicappers, sometimes not, but in this case, the guy was a pretty decent player, work on something to a fault. And so, a fix that might be good for them at one point in time is not going to work maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years down the line. And sometimes people get sucked into thinking that they just need to stay on the course of a certain swing fix. If you go too far with any swing fix, too much of anything is not good, right? Even if it's good at the time. So I think encouraging people to understand that everything in moderation, you have to keep an eye on what it is, the swing change that you're making, so you don't go too far with it. That's easy to do for some golfers more than others. Also, I think it's interesting that this guy, again, is a 6 handicap and did not have a feel for these things in his swing. I even asked him at the top of his swing, he's a little cross the line at the top, how he had been trying to work on fixing this. And he said he's been trying to fix that for years and get it out of his swing. And granted, I had to put him in some positions and get him to feel where I wanted him. But I said to him, can you feel the weight of the club in the back of your right wrist, at the top of the swing here? And at first he looked at me and he said, no. And I said, well, the club is completely laid off. We have it exaggerated right now. It's pointing to the wall behind you where you're standing. You can't feel the weight of the club, the mass of the club on the back of your right hand. He was like, oh yeah, I can. So I talked with him too for a few minutes about the fact that you have to pay attention to what you're experiencing in your swing, and you can fix what's going on. And this like light bulb went off for him. Just get some more awareness as to what's happening there at the top of your swing. You will feel what your hands are doing. You'll feel where the club is, and then you can do something different. And when you do something different, it leads to change. So hopefully this will inspire you to, again, think hard about what you're doing in your swing, changes you might want to make, how you're working with your coach, or come see me and I'd be happy to help you out. So have a great day, everybody, and happy weekend.